Hey folks, it's the Bad GM Wayne Davis. This is the Bad GM Productions YouTube channel. I apologize for the lighting. I apologize for the glasses. I apologize for the fact that this video is not being edited today. I'm doing all of it for one reason. I wanted to get a video together. I wanted to get it together quick, and I wanted to get it uploaded. So I didn't spend a lot of time making sure the lighting was right, or that this was right, or that that was right. I just want to get to it. My glasses are on because I've got script that I'm going to actually read for one of these rather than wing it. And the reason for all of that, as you saw in the title for this video, is going to kind of talk about the Open Game License 1.1. I realize there's a ton of videos out there, and I realize, probably don't want or need my 2 cents worth on it. But I mean, hell, what's the point in having a YouTube channel where if you can't put your thoughts out there about things from time to time? So let's dive into it. There are some folks, I'm sure, that have been hearing about all these things that are going on, and they're like, well, what the hell exactly is an open game license? The open game license was originally created in 2000 by Wizards of the Coast when they released D&D 3rd edition. There are 2 points to an open game license. You've got the actual OGL itself, it's the short for it. Also, what's called a system reference document, or SRD. I did an entire episode of Role Playing History where we talked about those. So you can go back and find it in the archives, and you can hear me drone on and on and on and on about what they are. TLDR is that the OGL, like governmental, I'm using initials, or abbreviations, sorry. OGL, at least the original, stated that you had the right, so long as you followed these couple of small things, you had the right to create third-party content based off of Wizards of the Coast's intellectual property, which is D&D. You could make references to the races, to the classes, to the things. You just had to basically, put this much verbiage in your book or whatever, saying that you're following the open game license through the system reference document, yada, 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 yada. 22 years. Went on that way for 22 years. Now we're hearing about the Open Game License 1.1 because the document, say that carefully, the document was supposedly leaked. And I say supposedly, there are multiple sites all over the internet who are like, oh, we've got it. It was leaked. Here it is. But I have a question. And it's a question that I have heard raised, and I've heard a lot of people phrase when they're talking about this in the context of, well, if this is what's really happening. And that's a question that I have. Is this document that's out there really legit? It's entirely possible it's not. I mean, it is written in Word style and format. So was the original, at least, the versions that I've seen. However, doesn't necessarily mean that somebody didn't just hear a few things here and hear a few things there and go, oh, well, this is definitely what they're doing. I can fill in the rest. We don't know. We're going to supposedly get answers from Wizards of the Coast on Friday, because that's supposedly when the actual document's supposed to drop. But until then, for the purposes of this, we're going to run with the assumption that it is legit. And you're going to see me look down from time to time because I'm going to look at my notes, because you damn sure bet I want to get this right. I don't need Wizards coming after me. Thank you. The basics of this new open game license are, whether you make a dime selling this or not, selling your product or not, whether you actually are trying to make money with your product or not, they want you to get a license. There's the commercial license. Obviously, if you're trying to make money, there's the non-commercial license if you're not. I'm not talking about the non-commercial license. Doesn't hardly seem to be anybody pissed off about that. It's the commercial license that's got everybody pissed. And I get it, because there's 3 tiers to it, which each have their own requirements. The first tier, I think, is if you're like up to $5,000 in revenue. It's one level. It's like, I think, 5,001 to like $749.99 is a middle tier. Now, those 2 tiers, you don't have to pay, but you have to register. And like on the bottom tier, you have to present Wizards with like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what it's about. And, this is how I'm using your license. And they could be, they're either going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, no big deal. Or they're going to be like, yeah, no, hell no, you're not doing that. Middle tier, it's same as the first tier, but you also have to provide them with financial statements. Well, how much revenue is this generating? And that's so that they can keep tabs on you. And if you get to 750,000 in revenue in a year, you kick up to the top tier. And that's when the stuff starts happening that's really got people concerned. Because see, if you hit $750,000 in revenue in a year, every dollar above 750,000, you have to pay Wizards of the Coast for. The example that they use in the document is if you make 700, well, let me back up a half a step. You have to pay them 25% of your revenue above $750,000. Okay? The example that they use in the document is that if you make $750,001, you got to pay them 25% of that dollar, so you pay them a quarter. Now, sorry, it doesn't say anything about profit in there, by the way. It says revenue, and many people online have, guessed, assumed, whatever you want to say, and I can't argue with them. It doesn't say profit. It says revenue. So it sounds to me like they're going off of gross instead of net. So even if you, let's say, bring in $850,000, but you make no profit off of it, then by what I'm reading, you still owe Wizards of the Coast 25% of what I say, 850. So you owe them 25% of 100 grand. You owe them 25 grand. But you didn't make any money. And now you owe them a shit ton of money. Start to see why people are getting worried. And like I said, this is all part of the commercial license. The document also says that if you crowdfund your project, because crowdfunding has been a big thing, unless you use Kickstarter, which is their stated in the document preferred crowdfunding source, you still have to pay 25% of the revenue. If you're using Kickstarter, they're giving you a 5% discount. You only got to pay 20%. If you're using like mixed crowdfunding sources, then you'll pay 25% on the non-Kickstarter, 20% on the Kickstarter. They got a whole formula. I'm not getting to it. And also, they've got words in there talking about your backer material, basically your rewards for the tiers. They can actually consider if you're selling it while you're doing your campaign. Again, this is all my interpretation of what I'm reading, but it looks like they can actually count the profits off of that in with what you're doing, whether it's what they call licensed or non-licensed material. So again, if you want to see why people are getting pissed off, reading this, I can certainly see. Now, here's okay. I did mention that, you have to license all the material. They've got badges you attach to the product based on your level, and then there's more legalese you got to put in there. But I want to address this, and I'm actually looking at the statement I'm getting ready to read. This is one that I started seeing concerns about the last couple of days, and I'm like, it's not possible, is it? There are creators at all tier levels that honestly believe by reading this that Wizards of the Coast basically has the right to take your work, your idea, your creation, and do whatever they want with it, whenever they want with it. And I thought, that's not possible. I'm going to read it word for word because I typed it out of the OGL 1.1. Here we go. This is section C2A, by the way. Let me be specific. You agree that we own copyright, trademark, and patent rights, if any, in the licensed content and unlicensed content. We reserve all rights not expressly given to you through this agreement. You agree to include any copyright or other rights notices included with the licensed content in your licensed work, and you may not impose any additional, different, or inconsistent terms or conditions with respect to the licensed content in any license you grant to any licensed works. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I said that at the top. I've said that 100 times in the past. That sure as hell reads to me like they can do what they want with your licensed work. But like I said, I don't know. So I've been saying off and on, there's a lot of people pissed off about this. Why? Let's kind of get into that. If this document is the real deal, like I said, that's the assumption. That's the assumption we're going with. It's the real deal. Because right now, we play the what if game from today till tomorrow. Let's run with the assumption that it's real. This is a game changer for all third-party content producers. Look, I follow a lot of them online, both through the Bad GM Twitter account, and I still actually have the Role Playing History Twitter account up because I've been too lazy to switch them over. And I follow a bunch of content creators. And granted, a lot of them don't hit that $750,000 threshold, but I get their fear that if we have to license all this stuff, Wizards of the Coast could come along and go, ooh, that idea is better than anything we have. Yank mine now. I mean, what the hell, right? I mean, seriously. And it should scare the hell out of them, because if that's a possibility, that means you've now taken all this time, all this effort, all this love, because we put love into our work, and now that shit's gone because they took it from you. And I do think that some of the fear comes from the confusion, because there's like 15 pages on this damn thing. And it's some of it, as I said, is written in terms you need to give to your lawyers. Now, I will say that, for some of the folks that have spent a lot of time as third-party content producers, they've probably dealt with it before. So they've got a better read on it than I do. So if they're scared because of what they've read, it's probably because it makes a lot more sense to them than it does to me. So let me be honest about that. So why is this happening? That's a better question. In the OGL 1.1, Wizards does a statement at the top of it, which is kind of what gets me a little wondering, is this the real deal or not? Because they do explanations throughout the document that are written. They're written like so an idiot can understand what they're doing. And I'm not overly familiar with legal documents that come out and intentionally make it easy for you to understand, which almost makes me wonder, is somebody making this shit up? But anyway, okay, let's say it's legit. Wizards is laying out their explanation at the top. And what they said is, when the original OGL was dropped in 2000, the landscape wasn't like it is now. We didn't have the proliferation of gaming stuff on the internet like we have now. We didn't have the proliferation of third-party content providers. We didn't have all the videos and the streams and the this and the that. And that's true. It is true. I mean, I was 27 in 2000, and I can tell you, yeah, we weren't anywhere near where we are now. Yes, for you youngsters, we had the internet, okay? And yes, if you could afford it, you could have high speed. And actually, high speed was starting to come down in price. But anyway, excuse me. The only argument that I have with this particular statement is because they're making the changes to help their brand through all of the changes in the world. My issue with this statement is thus. It's been 22 years that you've gone with OGL 1.0. 22 years. You've seen Kickstarter come along. You've seen the proliferation of third-party content providers. You've seen live streams like Critical Role, Dimension 20, etc., etc. You've seen all this stuff. And you're waiting until now to alter your OGL. I mean, hell, they've released 3 different editions of the game since then. 3.5, 4, and 5. And yes, I consider 3.5 to be its own edition. Sue me. They could have very easily at any point in time just said, things, we need to clarify this. They wait till now. Why? I will get to that in a few minutes, actually. I really will. They also say that they believe, their original thought and intent on that was that we're going to make this open game license so that gamers can create product that they could share online with each other. And look, I get it, because frankly, in the late 90s, there were a lot of us, I'm one of them, that were creating some of our own product. And we were sharing it on, well, not necessarily product, but like weapons and creatures, whatever. And we were sharing it on sites that were created for sharing online. We were doing it. This OGL basically made it legal. They basically said, we're not going to come after you and we're not going to prosecute you for doing it, so long as you make sure we get our credit. So yeah, that original OGL changed the nature of things. So why now? And I said we were going to get to this. I pulled an article from Forbes magazine from November of last year. In the article, they reported the stock price for Hasbro, which, as we know, is the parent company of Wizards of the Coast. You may not have known that, but most of us do. Anyway, their stock price had been on a steady decline since like mid 2021. And like in the 3-month period leading up to this article, it had dropped from like $85 and change to like low 60s. So they lost $20 in like 3 months. They also noted in the article that Wizards' response to this was they were going to just start cranking out more Magic the Gathering cards, because as we all know, Magic the Gathering is a Wizards of the Coast product. As of the third quarter of 2022, and I got this from another article, and I'm looking down to make sure I get it right, Wizards of the Coast was responsible for a little over $1 billion in revenues for the company, which I couldn't get the exact percentages, but that is like, I know that's more than 50% of Hasbro's overall revenues. And we know how big a part of WotC's revenues D&D is. So there's that. One other thing, because I kept going through financial sites trying to get the answers I needed. But one thing I kept noticing is that Hasbro, when they did their last earnings call, they kept reporting a 5% drop in revenues from their tabletop games. They never actually said D&D, but when you say tabletop games to a gamer and it's Wizards of the Coast, it's D&D. Now, here's where I put my tinfoil hat on. I'm really not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but I have a theory. And I'm going to share it because, damn it, this is my video. So, you're Hasbro. You believe your company is, losing some profits on a product. And, I don't know, maybe by chance there are some people out there that are publishing material for your product. And they're not paying you any sort of license fee or whatever. I'm losing 5% of my profits every year. And I got these people over here that are making money. I know how I'll make up that shortfall. I'm going to get their money. Okay, look, it's a theory, right? I mean, it's just a theory, right? What are the chances I'm right? Probably about the same chances as me winning the lottery, but whatever. It can happen. Now, and I do want to be fair to Wizards of the Coast for a minute. I know there's a lot of people like, screw them. Why be fair? I'll get to some of the other terrible crap. But in this part, I want to try to be a little bit fair. I'm going to lay even money that this new open game license is not a Wizards creation. I'm going to bet it's some suits at Hasbro that sat down, wrote it out, attached Wizards of the Coast to it because everybody knows Wizards is the publisher, and they're going to sling it out that way. Basically put Wizards between the fans and themselves and let Wizards catch the shit when it gets flung. And by God, the shit's already been flung, and they're catching it. And if we're truly being fair, this is Wizards of the Coast's intellectual property. D&D is their intellectual property. They do have the right to tighten up the rules. They do technically have the right to do whatever the hell they want with it. It's their intellectual property. However, actually, before I say however, there is one point of this new OGL that I absolutely agree with. They have the right to yank your license if you publish stuff that goes against their values. No homophobic stuff, no transphobic stuff, no racist stuff. The list goes on. So I totally agree with that, because if there's people out there that are publishing that shit, they deserve to lose their license. Granted, there are some parts of that, though, that are going to be subjective, right? So, as always, and somebody who may not deserve to get hosed is going to get hosed. And again, while I might give them, I'll give them a few feet on that one, but there's just a lot that's puzzling about this, and it's troubling. And one of the things that's even more troubling is that Wizards of the Coast went like radio silent, man. Once this shit all started coming down, I'm gonna try a little light here because I feel like there we go. Wizards of the Coast went like radio silent from the time this document dropped to like Tuesday, and then like the message they dropped was just like, we've heard the questions from the gaming public and we'll be providing answers soon. Thank you for your patience. Look, man, I got a BA in communication, okay? I've spent a lot of time working in fields where either I was communicating or I was handling writing communications or I was doing PR. I can assure you beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is page one in the book of this is not how you frickin' do it, okay? And it really shows to me they have no clue what the hell's going on. And they're not helping themselves. Now, maybe they don't want to tip their hand before Friday when this all comes out. But come on, man, you can drop something that's got a bit of a sympathetic tone, something more along the lines of, look, we've heard about the fears and the frustrations coming out of the gaming world. We hear your fears, we understand your fears, and we promise you answers will be forthcoming Friday. Is it gonna quell the mob? Probably not, but it at least, be political for a second, it at least gives the impression that you give a shit, right? That's just my thought. Look at it in two ways. One, they don't give a shit about what's being said one way or the other, and the document's real and they're going to drop it as it is. They're playing poker. Second thought you could take on this, they don't want to see the sales of the game drop through the floor. So, I mean, that's a distinct possibility. That may actually happen. So what they're doing and not saying anything is they're, scrambling to try to save their ass and rewrite some of this before they drop it on Friday. It's a possibility. Now, again, we'll go to the third option, which is that this document isn't real or only portions of it are real, and Wizards of the Coast is not wanting to give any credence to that. But I call bullshit. And I call bullshit for one reason. If you know something is fake, even just a portion of it, seems to me you'd step up and be like, pardon me, that's bullshit. Then they're not doing that. So again, not doing themselves any favors here. Okay, so sorry, I'm kind of looking all over the place today. This thing's got me a little pissed off. I've got podcasts to record this morning. I'm running late on things. It's just what a day. But let's talk through some things. If everything that I've read is true, I see a whole lot of third-party content creators, including a lot of groups that I'm friends with, and I talk to a lot on Twitter. Awfully Queer Heroes, who I've given a ton of free plugs on the show over the past year or so. They're going to be put in a position where they've got to choose between following the OGL to the letter and possibly having to spend money, or losing out on that segment of the business that they've spent so much time building. And look, man, if you're talking about like freelancers, and I'll get a little more into that in a minute, this is their source of income. They create this stuff. They put it out there. They make some money doing it, and it's money they need to pay their bills. It's been reported by multiple sites that the number of providers that would actually hit the top tier at this point on the OGL is like right around 20. People have said that Wizards of the Coast has actually said who they all are. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I haven't seen it. But I mean, off the top of my head, Paizo Publishing, Cobalt Press, Critical Role. But I mean, every third-party creator is going to be affected in some way, shape, or form. Like I said, if you don't work for a giant game company, it's going to hurt you, because there's a lot of freelancers right now who are making their bread and butter, writing their stuff up, producing their stuff, and handing it off to some of these publishers who are paying them so that they can publish it. And I think if this is real, and I think if these third-party content companies have got to start figuring something else out, they're going to downsize. They're going to turn internally. They're going to try to keep their people that are in the house that are, getting paid full salaries. They're going to try to keep them busy first. And that's going to shut these freelancers out in the dark. And that frickin' blows. And I know there's going to be some asshole out there that's going to say, well, why don't they just start writing for something else? Dude, not that easy. It is not that easy. There are not that many game systems out there at present. I can't even think of any that have an open game license. So that means you can't produce third-party stuff for them, even if you wanted to. Now, if this is legit and this does happen, I can see other companies all of a sudden rolling out an open game license, rolling out an SRD, just to kind of give a giant middle finger to Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. But that takes time. And in the meanwhile, some of these people, and like I said, I'm talking about the little guy. I feel for the big company, but I really feel for the little guy, because I am the little guy. I feel for the little guy, because now what the hell did they do to put food on the table, right? Or the roof over their head, or keep the lights on? What the hell do you do? So Cobalt Press put out a release, and I'm going to read this almost directly off my sheet. Cobalt Press put out a release on Tuesday. I actually saw it on Facebook. They laid out their plans. They told their fans, this is our plan. First thing that they said they're going to do is they want to wait and see, is this thing real? Which tells me they're not even sure if it's real. But they're hedging their bets. They said, okay, if this is real, we're working on a new game and a new game system, and we're going to put an OGL out, a system reference document out, and y'all are going to be able to create third-party stuff for us. But again, that's going to take time. To me, I can't, unless they're way farther ahead on it than anybody thinks, and it's entirely possible, because this rumors of this have been going on for a while. I figure, though, at least 30 days before you can drop it in PDF form, right? But, I mean, hey, God love them. They've at least got a plan, and they're talking about it. And like I said, I could see other companies doing it. Let's talk about a group like Critical Role. And I know Critical Role is sometimes controversial to talk about because some people like them, some people don't. I like them. I don't watch them as much as I used to. I don't have that kind of time. But I still like them. I respect what they do. They're going to have a problem. I mean, if you follow them at all, you know they're in that top tier. There's no doubt about it. Their entire business, basically, at least the full three, the three main campaign seasons, are based on D&D 5th edition. They've got a game book available in their online store that is based on 5th edition. Now, what do? Look, nobody's asking for my opinion. Of course, you haven't asked for any of this opinion. I'm throwing it out there, but you're not paying for it, and it's my channel, so screw it. You get my opinion. And by the way, one of the suggestions I'm going to make is something that can help you if you decide you're switching away from D&D, but you still want to play fantasy. So keep listening, even if you don't want to hear it. Now, one thing I do want to point out is if Critical Role decides, well, you know what, we're going to roll the dice, we're going to take our chances, we're going to keep going as is. Smartest move for them, if they're going to do that, might be to make a special arrangement with Wizards of the Coast, because as I noted when I read through it, the live game content isn't covered under a commercial license. You have to go get a special arrangement with them. So maybe because Mercer's written for him before, maybe he can get a friends and family discount. I seriously doubt that, but that is an option. First thought, revert their game back to Pathfinder. If you know any of Critical Role's history, you know that the home game that this turned into, that this became, was originally run with Pathfinder 1st edition. You could do that. But I mentioned Paizo might have a problem, so I'll expand on that in a minute. You could switch to another game outside the fantasy realm and just play that. Wait for everything to just kind of settle out and see what's going to happen. That would be great, except right now they're in the middle of a season. They're in the middle of a campaign, and that campaign runs on D&D 5th edition. So, best choice, and this is the one I wanted to make sure you heard. Pick another fantasy system. There's a ton of them out there. I mean, there really are. Personally, I would advocate for the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game, because I really think that a lot of that plays into a lot of the customization that they try to do with the characters. It's not perfect. They'd have to homebrew some stuff. But hell, they've homebrewed stuff for Critical Role, so it's not that big a deal. Now, how do you explain this in game? I've experienced this. I haven't actually been the one that ran it. My buddy Jim ran it. Let's go back now almost 23 years to 2000 when 3rd edition came out. We had been playing 2nd edition. We were switching to 3rd edition. I don't remember exactly what Jim had happened, but I think it was almost like there was a wave or something that happened, and things changed. Magic changed. How the in-game explanation is, you're tapping into your magic in a different way, and you feel a different way, and yada 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 yada, which explains why now your spells are different, why your skills and abilities might be different, why we might be talking about a difference in abilities or whatever. That's how you explain it. And look, Mercer's a hell of a storyteller. So if he decides to do that, I have no doubt he will have no problems getting that worked out. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. And I'm sure Matt and Marisha and Travis and the whole group, I'm sure they've been keeping a tight eye on this. I'm sure they have plans. Matter of fact, Thursday night, we may very well hear their plans when they do their episode. And I will probably actually watch live for the first time in a while, because I'll want to see if they make any comment on it. They may not, though. They may decide to be diplomatic and wait till everything boils down. So, all right, I mentioned Paizo and Pathfinder a minute ago. So here's the problem. As I interpret the OGL 1.1, it looks like Wizards of the Coast is trying to say this now supersedes any other OGL we've done, which is only one. Which is almost like what they're trying to say is, we're going to go all the way back to 3rd edition. So if you're still producing stuff for an old system, we get your money. Now, Paizo could get around this because this has been gotten around before. You take Pathfinder, pull out your D&D 3, the stuff that's like blatant from D&D 3E, put your own version of it in there, reprint, republish, out you go. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But they'd also have to pull all the crap they've already got out there off the shelves and basically burn it. So not that easy, and it would cost them a lot of money. I would note for the record, there have been a lot of lawyers online posting about this OGL thing. And companies like Paizo have kind of hinted that they're going to have their lawyers look at it too, because you're told it's going to be one way, and now all of a sudden it's not, and it's confusing and it's scary and it's all of that. So we'll have to wait and see. Look, I realize I'm going 30 something minutes on something that I really didn't intend to be that long. So let's get to the takeaway. What's the takeaway? If this new OGL really is everything it looks like it's going to be, game industry, as we've come to know it over the last 22 years, is about to see a major change. And in my opinion, we've never seen a change quite like this. And that's because bringing in the third-party content creators, bringing in the streaming shows, bringing in all this stuff. There have been major changes in the game industry before, with companies going out of business and companies coming into business and new game systems. We've never seen anything quite like this. This is uncharted territory. We really don't know what'll happen. And that's what scares the shit out of people. Okay. What I would say is that if this all goes down, one of the things that it does say in the OGL is you don't pay money until 2024. But of course, you'll pay it on your profits starting January 13th. But what I would strongly encourage you to do, if this goes down, get out there and support your third-party content creators. Buy their stuff, download their stuff, whatever. Throw them money before they got to do whatever it is they got to do. If this OGL isn't really what it appears to be, then I guess we'll be doing another video. And I think we're going to be doing another video anyway. I'll either do it Friday night or I'll do it Saturday night. I promise the lighting will be better. I'll get the backlight. I've got a backlight I usually put back there, but I was in a hurry, so I didn't put it out. And I do want to take just a second, because I know there's some people that are going to bust my chops. We'll just go with that, for maybe being a little too nice to Wizards of the Coast. Look, I appreciate the fact, and I did say I appreciate the fact they're trying to protect their IP, but I will acknowledge the fact that numerous practices of theirs over the years have sucked. The way they have treated people that have worked for them, the way they have treated some of the contractors that have worked for them. Let's just say, at best, those actions would be considered poor. At worst, you could call them illegal. Okay. I'm not questioning it. And by the way, there are a lot of people that be like, oh my God, you're believing all of that, but you don't believe that. Look, I believe in the 50% philosophy. If 50% of what I'm reading or 50% of what I'm hearing is true, then there's got to be something there, man. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So I think it's fair to say that they've done it. Okay. The only thing I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying very hard to look at the issue and be fair and be objective. I mean, I get it. I've let my opinion in. I'm human. It's going to happen. Whatever. One more question that I know that's been coming up. I'm going to take my glasses off for this one because I don't need to really read it at this point. If this all goes down, should I keep playing D&D? Look, that's your choice. That is your personal choice. If you decide you want to quit playing D&D in solidarity, or because you want to give Wizards of the Coast a giant finger for changing this stuff, dude, that's your call, man. I get that. I understand that. I've threatened to get off of Twitter because of Elon Musk buying it, but I haven't done it yet because I don't know, I'm lazy. But if you want to make that stand, that's your stand to make. I can tell you my group is not going to be playing D&D anytime in the near future. Not necessarily because of this, but it's because I'm the only one that runs D&D and I'm burned out. I mean, it's why I just ran a Deadlands game. I'm running a Fallout game, probably running Serenity or Firefly next. I've got Hunter the Gathering over here on the shelf. I've got Paranoia. I've got Call of Cthulhu. Trust me, my group's going to run through a whole lot of other shit before we even think about getting into D&D. Side benefit might be I may never play D&D again. I don't know. It depends on how I feel about all of this when I say. I guess I just want to sum all of this up by saying this doesn't look good, man. This really does look bad. The only thing that I can think is to maybe put it the way my dad always put it, which is funny because he's been gone 16 years and I'm still using the saying of his. Hope for the best, prep for the worst, and let's see how it ends out. So, I mean, if you're a creator, look, man, I know you're going to be freaked, and just know I love you. I got you back. There's a lot of people out there that love you and got you back. Find a way to try to distract yourself till Friday. Let's see what the hell's going on. So that is the exceptionally long video that is not being edited, like I said, because I want to get this thing uploaded. And at 30-something minutes, it's going to probably take 2 hours to get it uploaded. If you're interested in getting this or more content like this, click on the subscribe button, hit the bell. You'll get notified when we have more content. You follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/gaming/badgmprod. Check out our website, badgmproductions.net. We've been posting some videos there as well. That's it, man. I'm probably, like I said, I'm going to probably do a follow-up video to this at some point this weekend once we get what's coming and once I have an opportunity to look at what's coming. So, like I said, if you've got your buttons hit, you'll be at it. Otherwise, until then, I'm the Bad GM, Wayne Davis. I'll see you at the game table.